My name is Conrad Zerini, and this is Compound Interest. And I like I said, coming down here, I said, I am like starstruck and awestruck. And you know, you read your resume, you've mentored 40,000 students, right? Is it from something like that? 40 years in the industry. You are a child prodigy professor. You started at 6, so that's amazing. Good on you. And you know what? You're the thought leader. You're a thought leader for a generation in this region. I have to say that. And that's the only thing I can say to describe you. And you've been a thought leader for me, and I got to know a little bit about you. You started to get notoriety back in 2000, a long time ago, with the amalgamations, sure. the tension that surrounded that. But you know what? I want to just dive right in. And
sure.
Huge, big news day today. A couple things happening, right? And this economy that we're in, right? How much is this psychology and how much is this real numbers? We just had that announcement with Carney and that new alliance we have with China. Is that gonna temper some sentiment for people? Because you know, in my business, we're always blaming the economy. Did we do a good deal with them? Are they more stable than our southern partner? Just let's dive right into the fun.
well, let's start with the word economy, and then I'll get over to that side of it. The Canadian economy is not doing all that badly, and it really hasn't been doing all that badly over the last year. Now, some years ago, we used to have what's called a boom and a bust cycle. Mm-hmm. So you would have really good times, and then you'd have really terrible times. And if you can just think of that curve shape, and then you grab it and pull it, so that when you have a good time, it doesn't feel that good anymore. But now when you have a bad time, it isn't really all that bad either. Mm-hmm. The bounces between the tops and the bottoms aren't that high. So the last year has been good. Inflation is down to around 2%. Interest rates have come down by a point or 3/4 of a point over the last year. They're not likely going to go any lower in 2026, but that part is fine. Okay, unemployment, yes, we're a little higher than we'd like. We're running at 6.8%. That was up a little bit from a month ago. But again, some of that is structural. In the month of December, nobody hires people to start, and then you give them 2 weeks of holidays at Christmas time. So you'll see the January numbers be stronger. So on its own, if I could put a glass dome over Canada, mm-hmm. we're doing fine. Mm-hmm. The problem is that we are connected to the rest of the world. And in particular, Canada is connected to our neighbor to the south, the United States. A year ago at this time, if you had asked me to look at the Canadian economy in 2025, I would have said the same thing. Good economy, mm-hmm. very resilient, very strong. But I had never imagined a presidency like Donald Trump's, even though he'd been president before.
Yes.
The Donald Trump 2.0 is a much different beast than Donald Trump 1.0. And what he has done is he's not actually caused us a lot of economic problems. So again, to give you an example, the word of the year for 2025, tariffs, mm-hmm. tariffs. But because our free trade agreement's in place with the United States, it really only impacts those businesses that haven't registered under the free trade agreement. Yep. And guess what? If you weren't registered in March and you could get registered, there was a lot of fast tracking of those registrations. So, you know, very little of our economy has been affected by the tariffs directly.
Yeah.
But what Mr. Trump's actions have done is caused tremendous uncertainty.
Yes. Because
you're sitting there saying, well, if he's done this today, what's he going to do tomorrow? What's he going to do next month? And we've still got 3 more years of Donald Trump. We are just almost up to the 1-year anniversary of his inauguration.
It seems like much longer.
I know. And there are 3 more years to go.
And we got the midterms. We got the
midterms coming. And that may change things too. That may change things, but that's not until November.
Yes.
And trust me, if the midterms go against Mr. Trump in that brief window that he still has the clout, he's probably going to do some more things. Anyway, he's caused uncertainty. Mm-hmm. So that's hurt consumers, because if I don't feel certain about tomorrow or the year after that or the year after that, I'm probably not going to make some bigger purchases. It's caused the same problem with businesses. You know, Ford doesn't hate Canada. General Motors doesn't hate Canada. They'd be happy to invest, and they were happy to invest. But you invest today, but it takes 4 years, 5 years to build the factory. You got to feel like the world is going to be the same when you're done, and they don't. The other big thing that's happened over the last year, and this isn't news, we knew this before, is that we were highly reliant on the American economy. We're joined at the hip We are their largest trading partner. They are our largest trading partner. And so with a new prime minister, Mr. Carney came in 2025, more of a economics guru, if you will, says, I've got to take steps to try to help Canada diversify the economy. And that's a kind of a bold statement for a prime minister to do, because normally you say, well, that's up to the private sector. You've got to go out and sign these contracts. But he's decided to be Captain Canada, be the cheerleader, and he doesn't hand this off to somebody else. He's going to do it. Now, Mr. Polyev wants to say that Mr. Carney's going on all these vacations to places around the world. But they aren't vacations. They are what the world is like today. You've got to build relationships. And in other cases, we have to mend fences. And so this week, Mr. Carney's in China. China still has its problems. We still don't quite understand them. We're not sure we can trust them. But when we had a partner we thought we could trust and we can't trust them, we've got to try to build some kind of a relationship. And so this is a thawing. I don't think there's going to be a lot of big news coming out of China, big deals, but there's going to be a thawing.
Yeah.
And that's what we need. And we need that in the European Union.
Yeah.
We need that in parts of Africa and parts of South America. So this trend of what Mr. Carney is doing is going to continue. To me, the fascinating thing has been the consumer reaction to all of this. It is hard to motivate consumers to do something. You might remember, I think it was in April or May of 2025, that there were a group of mad consumers that were going to do a boycott of Loblaws. Because we're going to teach Loblaws about high food. Well, come on, that's everybody. And it sounded good, and it got a lot of press, but it actually didn't do anything. You know, maybe 10,000 people signed up for it. Well, in a country with 40 million, 10,000...
Yeah, it's a drop in the bucket.
It's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
So when, again, Mr. Carney and the Liberals talked about being elbows up, we're going to be elbows up with the United States, somehow that really resonated with Canadians. And we have seen it in travel patterns, and they have been sustained travel patterns. In other words, same-day traffic to the United States. Now, I'm speaking to you in Hamilton. The United States is an hour and a bit away. That border that we have to Buffalo, what have you, traffic is down 35%. And it's been down every single month since about April of last year. People are just not going. The northern United States, who've always expected an influx of Canadian travelers, are begging us to come back. Please come back. We like you. You're good people. And we said, no, not as long as he's there. And so flights, same thing, down at least 25%. Air Canada, WestJet, Flair, pick your favorite airline. They have all been changing the mix of flights, less on America, more on the islands, more to Mexico, more to Central America. One of the big winners in all this is Costa Rica, a country that most people were sort of blindly ignorant of. But when you're looking for an alternative to Florida or Texas, and the islands, we've done the islands. That's kind of Costa Rica. Let's go check that out this year.
Well, there was something in the paper today about the Caribbean, and people worried about the Venezuela piece, right? Yeah. So you teach entrepreneurship, right? Right. So tell me something in this climate, right? In this climate, so I'm a firm believer in look, you have to transcend the market. We always think there's always a boogeyman or boogie person. I don't know what the politically correct word is, but there's always something. The T word. It's Venezuela. It's oil. Whatever it could be. Interest rates. So being an entrepreneur in this climate. Okay. What is your advice to people? Now, you talked about relationships. What would be the key point right now if you had to 25 words or less to talk about? There's so many factors going on in this. I got you. I'm going to ask you the tough fucking questions. So, what do you think? Your advice, 25 words or less.
Kind of you to say I was a thought leader, but if you've been following me, 25 words or less is hard for me.
Subtle.
So I would give the same advice to an entrepreneur that I would give to someone looking at buying a house.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And that is do it.
Okay.
Just do it. It's the Nike slogan. Just do it. Why? Because consumers are still eating. Consumers still want to go to a restaurant. They still are buying clothes. Yeah. They're still buying shoes. They're still putting the kids in hockey. They're still doing all those things. And there are opportunities in what we do. Same thing with a house. The house is the single best investment anyone ever makes in their life. Even if you, and heaven forbid this has happened, that you're divorced, you're in your 40s or 50s, you got to split up the assets, and now, I'm probably going to die with a mortgage. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. But so what? Because you buy a house, and over the next 20 years, it grows in value. The equity side of the equation goes up. Whenever you have to sell the house, you sell it, you pay off what remains of the mortgage, and then you've got all that equity that's grown. So it's the same thing with a business. There are opportunities out there. Now, I think they have to be intelligent opportunities. So I tell students that entrepreneurship involves a calculated leap of faith.
Okay. A
calculated leap of faith. In other words, I have to know the structure of the market. I have to kind of understand how consumers are behaving. And if I look at those two things and I say, yeah, there's an opportunity here, I'm going to take a calculated leap of faith and start my business. No guarantees of success. We still see businesses fail. Nice entrepreneurs sometimes read the tea leaves incorrectly, and that's a shame. But there are still going to be those opportunities. And so the Hamilton Spectator runs these stories every now and again. Here are the new restaurants. Here are the restaurants. Here are the restaurants we've lost.
Yes, yeah.
And people should read that as just being, I call it churn, the natural course of events, that there are some restaurants that resonate, and there are some that don't. Those that don't shut down, but they don't stay empty. 6 months later, another entrepreneur has moved in and is going from there, because that's the way the world is. And that is kind of below the Trump, China, Venezuela kinds of things, because we have to live our day-to-day lives.
Yeah.
COVID was a different thing.
Yes.
We're not seeing a COVID cloud on the horizon. COVID did fundamentally change the way we behave. But the Venezuela, China stuff, no.
Nothing. Yeah. It's a need. I call it a need-based economy. Like, I'm growing my family. I got to do something. You deal with a lot of young kids. Big thing on their radar screen is buying a home. Like, so what's your advice to the path of ownership? And this is multi-layered. How much money does Bank of Mom and Dad still have to lend these kids? Yeah. And is there another path to ownership of real estate? And like, how do you feel about that whole, that piece? Because it's a tough. Is it an affordability thing, or is it a demand thing? Like, what do you think it is?
Both of those things, and then as a financing thing as well. So, it's a serious investment. It always has been a serious investment. It'll be the biggest investment in your life. It'll be the biggest investment. So you don't do it lightly. You don't just sort of fall in love with the idea of having a house. Hey, let's go have a house, honey. I knew a couple once who bought a house. It was in Northern Ontario. And they just fell in love with the idea of owning a house. And they never checked to find out how it was heated. They didn't check to see if it had ductwork. And the answer to both of those was no. It was a summer cottage kind of a thing. And but they thought it was a year-round house because it looked like it could be a year-round house. First cold weather in the fall. Oh, there's no furnace. Oh, there's no ductwork. And they had to call and get it retrofitted, which was an unusual expense. Anyway, they fell in love. Don't fall in love. But treat it as a serious project. Meet with your banker. See what the bank can do for you. The banks want to lend you money. That's their lifeblood. They don't want to say no. However, they might say, that one's just a little beyond you at this time. Also, once upon a time, we believed in the concept of a starter home. You got your feet wet, you grew, and then you could trade up as situations changed. I think that is still applicable. Now, you mentioned the Bank of Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
So, and more likely the Bank of Grandma and Grandpa. We certainly know that most of Canada's disposable wealth is controlled by people who are 55 or over. Something like over $100 billion of disposable wealth. Wow. Now, much of that is invested. They've got it in stocks and other sorts of things. But also, seniors also have to think about, well, how am I planning to do my estate? Now, if the whole idea is the kids are going to inherit everything, then in a way, why make them wait until you die to transfer some of that wealth? And by the way, if you wait until you die, I wouldn't call it a death tax, but there is a probate cost to settle the estate. If you transfer the money ahead of probate, you don't pay the probate cost. Again, I'm not saying give your money away, but if you've got a grandchild, let's say you've got 6 grandchildren, and you think you could afford to give them each $25,000 towards buying their first house, then why not do it while you're alive and get them started on their road? I'm not saying everyone's in that position, and I'm quite well aware that we have people who are struggling to make ends meet. We have homeless people in Hamilton. Not everyone can do that, but if you are one of those people, and if I look at the major drivers of our economy in Hamilton, the hospitals, the universities, the colleges, there are a lot of people employed at those places who have very good pension funds, who've had very good salaries, and have probably built up quite a little investment portfolio. Again, I'm not saying give it all to the kids necessarily, and there may be other things you want to do in life. You want to support this charitable action. Go ahead. But as part of your planning, why wait until your death? Because we're also living longer.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
My father's parents died 6 months apart at age 68.
Oh, wow.
They retired at 65. They were farmers.
Young.
Moved to town. Well, not at that time.
Oh, okay.
But they moved to town and they died 6 months apart at age 68.
Yeah.
Today, I meet 68-year-olds. Yes, we just came back from a cycling tour of Europe.
Yeah.
You cycled? Yeah.
And wine and everything.
Yeah, wine. And we walked the Camino. And I think, wow. So a 68-year-old today is not a 68-year-old in the 60s. We are living longer, we're healthier, the healthcare system, say what you like about it. People get bionic knees and bionic hips and bionic shoulders, and they keep on trucking. So we are living longer. So maybe, again, rather than waiting until that terrible date of death, think about it. But I would encourage anyone to think about buying a house, do it intelligently, talk to the bank, talk to other financing, have the house checked out. I know a young woman at the university who's bought a house, and she claimed she had an inspection done before she bought the house, but she's had 4 different things happen over the last 6 months, and each one of them is kind of sad, and she's not enjoying home ownership. But you got to see you got to buy what you're.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the market now. It's not that frenzy that we had during COVID. So let's talk about stress tests. They're talk about discussing the stress test. I don't know how you feel about it, but there are some voices out there that feel the stress test actually put people in harm's way, because when rates were low, and people during COVID, and people that bought, they did the variable and they qualified for the stress test based on those levels. Then as rates started to increase and they wanted to go into a fixed mortgage, they couldn't refinance because the stress level was based on that lower level. So they got dragged into that increased rates and unaffordability and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, do you think the stress test, and I always say the tale of two countries, the U.S. didn't have a stress test. They've never had. They made it through, there was a little bumps and bruises in 2008, and that kind of thing. We didn't have that, but they made it through. They made it through this last period of growth. I would say Americans are not underwater in terms of values like Canadians are. Some Canadians, some sectors, if they bought in 21 or 22. But this stress test, do you feel it's outlived its usefulness? Is it time to maybe relook at this and maybe drop at a point?
Well, I think that's the better question. So at the time when we had tremendously low interest rates, unusually low interest rates. In fact, in the history of Canada, we never had interest rates that low.
So did the U.S., though, at the same time.
Yeah, fair enough, but we didn't have it in Canada.
Okay, yeah.
And so as you're looking at policy in Canada, the fear was, we knew those couldn't stay low. So if you bought a property and you had say a 3-year mortgage, in 3 years, they're likely going to be higher. So the whole concept of the stress test was to say, how much can you carry, not at today's interest rates, but at what more likely is going to be the interest rate in 2 or 3 years. And so they set a cutoff and they did it. And on balance, I think it actually worked fairly well. Now, I know there's always detractors, and especially if you're involved in the selling of a house, you'd like your people to be able to buy whatever they want to buy. But I actually thought there was some wisdom to it.
Okay.
And as a result, when interest rates did go up post-COVID, mostly as a braking mechanism because of inflation after COVID. We all came out of COVID ready to spend and consume, and we spent and we consumed, and that's where the inflation came from. I didn't hear of that many people losing their houses. Now, the rate of loss on house did go up a little bit. It went from something like 0.2% of mortgage renewals to 0.6% of mortgage renewals. So if you do it as a percentage, look how big that jump in that tiny percentage is. But on balance, most people were fine. Now, you raise an interesting question, should we still have stress tests today? The best belief is that in 2026, interest rates aren't going to go anywhere. One period they might go down 1/4 point, the next period they might go up 1/4 point, but they're just going to kind of bounce around this year, either perfectly flat or just a little bit of vibration. And If I'm looking a little farther down the road, 27, 28, I think they're going to look, again, pretty much the same, barring our friend south of the border and whatever he might do to the market. And so maybe they have outlived their usefulness. But I actually believed it was a good policy during a period of extraordinarily low interest rates, just to make sure we didn't have a situation like 2008. So just to go back to 2008, what triggered that in the United States? In 4 parts of the United States, California, Arizona, Florida, and Nevada,
yeah.
Las Vegas, people bought homes, again at a period of lower interest rates. Suddenly interest rates started to go up because there was a recession fear, and people realized that I owed more money on the house than the house itself was worth.
Yeah.
And so in those 4 states, people started to just walk away and say, why would I continue paying mortgage on a house that, I've already lost my equity, I'm walking away. And that catapulted into a whole series of failures. And we won't go into all of that, what happened, but there were a series of failures, and we don't want to live through something like that again. It didn't happen in Canada because we never let the situation get that far out of control. We have more regulations on banking than the Americans do. So we don't want to see that situation. We don't want to see people walking away from homes. Yes, people can sometimes feel trapped in a house because, gosh, I bought it here and I paid this, and now it's worth this, and I've lost some of my equity. But again, in the long term, if your goal isn't just to buy and flip, if you're planning to live, the house I bought in Dundas, I've lived in for 30 years. Well, in that time period, it's fine. Whatever loss I might have had one year gets offset another year, and over the longer term.
So you feel long-term ownership, right, is the thing, right?
Yeah, so if you're looking to buy a house, not as a flipper, not as a get-rich-quick. And again, if I can go back during COVID, there were people who were looking at stock markets, looking at terrible returns, possibly even negative returns on stock markets, and said, well, what could I put my money into, like doctors and what have you? So we suddenly had a rush of people buying homes, not because they wanted to live in them, but because they were using them as investment vehicles. I'm going to buy the home. I'm not even going to move in. I'm not even going to rent. I'll just buy the home for a year, and then I'll flip it a year later and get another $100,000. And I saw that in Vancouver, a lot of offshore money that came in. Well, that has pretty much gone. We've made it less attractive. So we're back to a more normal housing market.
And you bring up something really interesting, because that's one of my questions, because that I don't, it's not the right word, symbiotic, but it's that yin and yang relationship between the stock market and real estate, bricks and mortar. And look, the TSX just talked, huge gains this last year. Are we talking about a bubble with AI at some point, like we saw with the dot-coms? Do you see the shift maybe coming back to real estate? Because right now the numbers last year, the sales numbers were back to 2000 levels. So the same trend, and we have more people. So how do you? So where is this money going? Where is the sentiment? Where do you feel people are going to start to make those moves or make those decisions? Or do they like the stock market? Or are we going to see a dot-com? Or are we going to see another Northern Telecom with OpenAI?
So I guess the first thing is to say, well, why did we have such a good year on the stock market? Again, keeping in mind that was also the year of Trump. And so here we're supposed to be teetering on the edge of disaster and a recession around the corner, and look at what Mr. Trump is doing. Meanwhile, the stock market's doing pretty well. It wasn't AI that drove the stock market. It wasn't AI. AI drives what we think the future might be holding. And personally, I have problems with AI. It's as if it's something new. We've had artificial intelligence for 4 decades, maybe longer. The popcorn button on your microwave is AI. When you drive your car and you get out of your lane and it vibrates to get you back, that's AI. There's an algorithm telling you to do it. However, as we look at AI, these algorithms are going to get more and more and more sophisticated. The self-driving car would be an example of AI. I actually think we have the capability to have a self-driving car, but I think there's also legal concerns that we may never quite get that far. What we'll have is AI-assisted driving. You'll still be in charge, but there'll be all these extra tools now to stop you from doing something really terrible as you go along. So will we have an AI bubble? I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid of that because so many people are buying into the hype as if it's the next big thing. So I got to get in, I got to do that. That's not driving our stock market, but it is driving the American stock market. keep in mind the American stock market is being driven by just 5 companies.
Yes.
So Alphabet or Google, Meta, which used to be Facebook, you've got Apple in there, you've got Amazon in there, and you've got Netflix in there. Those companies have all done very, very well. And so when you compare, why is our stock market behind their stock market? Those 5 companies, tremendous. And everyone's expecting them to do big things with AI. And they've all said they're going to do big things with AI. But what big things, I don't know. So I do worry a little bit about a bubble for any company that's got that. Now, Imperial Oil, or Shell, or Ford, they haven't said they're doing big things with AI. Oh yeah, we'll incorporate a little of that into what we're doing, but they aren't an AI company per se. And that's more our stock market. We have a little bit more bread and butter kinds of things. So you asked then the question about the housing market. Yes, it was slow last year. We got a certain number of those investing types out. And where that was more noticeable wasn't Hamilton as much as Toronto. People who wanted to speculate in real estate wanted to get involved in condos. And again, the whole theory was we've announced the condo so I can get in on the announcement price. Then we start to build the condo. It's now got more value. I could flip it at that point, or I could wait a little longer. But they never wanted to hold it to the point that they had to move in. They could flip it along the way. Well, the condo market's lost its bloom to some extent. It will be interesting in 2026 to see the impact of governments, both provincial and federal, saying we want you back in the office.
Yes.
And there were a lot of people back in 2020 and 2021 who discovered the suburbs. They had this little box of air in downtown Toronto that wasn't much bigger than a bathroom, and they paid a fortune for it because they needed to walk to work. They wanted to walk to work. Then they discovered, hey, I don't have to walk to work. I can work from home, but who wants to be trapped in this little box? So I'm going to go buy a house out in the burbs. And my God, look what I can get for the same prices I had in downtown Toronto. I got grass. I've got a garage. I don't have, oh my gosh. So what's going to happen as they go back? Now, the story seems to be, depending upon how much you're getting paid, that some people just want to put a toe in the water and see about renting.
Yeah.
So that may drive investors back to the condo market, not on the flipping standpoint, but on the, well, I'll own and I'll rent it to these people.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's permanent. I think we'll have to see how steadfast the government is about making these changes.
Yeah.
And then we'll see how the consumers react, because we used to have a life where people commuted.
Yes.
We got used to our commute being from the bedroom to the dining room table. How are we going to do when we go back? And I don't know. And even at the university, for instance, at McMaster, while I teach in the classroom, I don't teach via Zoom, and the expectation is I'll come to the office. Our staff, generally speaking, work 2 days, 3 days from home, and 2 or 3 days in the office, even though we've got billions of dollars invested
in bricks and mortar,
in buildings. And we're building more.
Yeah.
I just don't know how long that will continue, and at what point will we say, well, look, there's a reason we have these buildings sitting there, and that's not to be ghost towns.
Yeah.
Are we going to come back? So I think 26 will be a bit of a transitional year around real estate, as we see not people, again, buying and living and raising a family, but people reacting to the commuting part of it.
Yeah. So you bring something up, and I'm a big fan of Jamie Dimon. I think he's fantastic, and his line is the best. You can't learn from your basement, right? You can't collaborate in your basement on a Zoom call. Bringing everybody back into the office. And now, is there any hard data? Because we have 14 offices in my network, in our network. You know what? Some offices are vibrant, some offices are not. I think there's that challenge. I do think we've lost some of that collaboration and synergy, even in sales. Like, some people say, well, I don't need to talk to anybody, but yeah, Joe knows somebody and Susie knows somebody, and you kind of come together and have a dialogue. Is there hard data on how people, like how companies grow, being back in the office again, having that whole thing? Like, that's the
short answer to your question is no.
No.
We don't have hard data.
Okay.
And to the extent people were gathering hard data, it was more about mental health.
Okay.
What was the mental health? And certainly being at home, loved your family, loved your cat, loved your dog, and you had that night tight, really tight. The family, I don't think, has ever been tighter than it was. But in terms of professional life, a lot of people felt quite isolated. You know, I only see you through a screen, and I can't touch you, and I can't, you know, taste your favorite cookies that you used to bring into the office, or whatever it happens to be. And that's also why the pet population went up, because one of the ways to deal with loneliness was to get a pet, and then you're devoted to your pet, and that was lovely. I think Zoom still has a place. I think these online meeting things still have a place. I teach a program, we call it the Directors College, where we teach Canada's next generation of corporate directors. And we used to do all of the modules in-house. We did it down in Niagara-on-the-Lake at a nice posh hotel down there, because you're paying good money and want good food. And, now 2/3 of the modules are done via Zoom. But the adult learners treat Zoom, in my mind, appropriately, meaning everyone's got their camera on. Everyone's only doing one thing, which is interacting with that screen, interacting with the person talking. I'll lead a case discussion, and it's great. I have no problems with that. But when I was dealing with 20-year-olds, their whole thinking was, how can I thwart the technology? So, the university doesn't require me to have my camera on, so I can log on hours in advance. He's got a black screen with my name on it. He thinks I'm there, but I'm sleeping. Or I'm getting breakfast. I had one young woman who tried to take one class from the front seat of a car while being driven to a nightclub.
I love it.
Was she learning? I think no. But she said, well, you know, I'm part of the class. So I think, again, we are sorting that out. But there is a value to human touch. There is something through nonverbal communication, through the eyes or through the body language. That
you can't get any other way.
You can't get any other way.
Talking about thwarting things, and that's interesting, the AI and assignments. So you must be seeing these AI, people handing in AI assignments, like assignments that are AI judged.
Yes. And that is a concern. I am lucky in that in my course, I have them do projects on relatively small businesses. So AI works, or let me try that again. So the most popular tool is something called ChatGPT.
Of course,
And ChatGPT works by scouring the internet. You put a name of some company, it goes out there, scours the internet to find all this material, and it says, what's your problem? Oh, and it looks through all that material and says, oh, here's something useful, and it crafts a response. The problem is when you deal with the small businesses, there's just not that much material about them out there. So if I have a student who tries to thwart the system with AI or ChatGPT specifically, all they can give me is something very generic. There's no details, no specifics in there. And that stands out like a sore thumb. So I'm lucky. But for instance, if I was teaching history and said, I'd like you to contrast and compare Columbus's adventures in the New World to Cortez invading Mexico, well, there's a ton of that information out there.
An ocean.
And thus, I think that's more of a problem. And we haven't figured out what we're doing with it yet. And so, it's only going to get more sophisticated.
As time. And well, the other thing too is, and I'll leap, like, let's go 5 years out and let's talk about everybody having an AI agent, like some sort of an AI agent for everything, time management, real estate, the whole bit. The thing is, and I have somewhat of a theory that we're going to be fact checking a lot, because people are going to go out there, they're going to mine from these, they're going to get from these data lakes about like this, what's the best time to buy real estate. They're going to get all these little snippets, somebody's going to put it together. Well, some of the, there's a lot of hallucinations. We use a lot of AI in our business and with stats and stats management and data management. But at the end of the day, it does hallucinate. I find it starts to give me graphs that I really like that are visually pleasing. So then that gets done, gives you the answer you want. I think there's this emergence of fact checking. I see it in news. I see it in our industry, that we need people that really know the knowledge and the data and fact check so they can kind of help people. I think that's going to kind of emerge. Do you see that as an entrepreneurial thing? Do you see that happening in all?
Well, possibly. So I wouldn't call it AI, but if you can go back to when Trump first was elected in 2016, Trump often gave you his vision of the world.
Yes.
And there were fact checkers who'd say, that's not true, that's not true, that's not true, that's not true. And yet he got elected. And then here in 2024, he got elected again. And he didn't change his mode of operation. He was still giving you a lot of crap, but people, so unfortunately, and people say this is a job for universities, and God knows we try to say to people, we have to critically assess the information that we're getting. So whether you're using an AI tool or you're just using Google on the web to search, you always have to critically assess the information that's coming back to you. Unfortunately, most people deal with information today using just one simple assessment tool. Do I like what I'm getting?
Yes.
So when you tell me what I want to hear, it's got to be the truth. And when you tell me things that you don't want to hear, it's got to be a lie. And neither of those are true. Sometimes there is bad news, and I'm sorry, you don't want to hear X, whatever X happens to be, but that is the truth. And other times, here's this news, and this is the truth, and it's good news. And I'm worried about this with AI because it bleeds. It bleeds. And I'm an old guy, so that means I have a Facebook account more than I have an Instagram account. On my Facebook feed, I see videos that I know can't possibly be true. But boy, do they look real. In other words, there's a group of people on a safari when suddenly a cougar jumps in, or a cheetah jumps in and curls up with somebody.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yeah. It looks, yeah.
And it looks real.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, isn't that sweet? And if there was just one of those videos, all right, maybe once in a lifetime, some switch. But when you get a stream of them, one after another, then you go, wait a minute, is that real?
Yeah.
I have seen videos of Mark Carney. Yes. I have seen videos of Pierre Poilievre touting investment schemes.
Yes.
Where everyone can get $30,000 a month by just passively investing. And it's all fake, but there are people falling for this. And it isn't the state of the art today, it worries me. It's the state of the art 10 years from now, which worries me. Because I teach at a university, we get people who are on the leading edge of these things coming and talking to us, what have you. There was a fellow from WestJet, and his vision of the world using AI was that I had a flight, I have a flight on WestJet, I'm flying to who knows where. I get to Pearson Airport, and the minute I walk through the doors, there's a camera that has spotted me. Using facial recognition, it knows it's me. So there, ahead of me, there's a sign that says, "Welcome, Marvin Ryder. You're booked on WestJet flight da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You have to go to aisle 4 this way." It's got an arrow, and it's customized to me. So I'm walking down there, and I pass some other screens, and they say, "Marvin, you still have 2 more aisles to go. You have 1 more aisle." So then I get to the aisle, and now you need to go to station 32. That's where you have to, and when you go and do this, and then all the rest of the way through the airport, it's talking to me. You've got 10 more minutes to get to the security. You got 5 minutes to get to security. And he thinks this is wonderful. And I say, no, I don't want that. I don't want the airport to be tracking every step that I make. I kind of sleep well being one face in a crowd of, 40 million people who go through Pearson every year. And if they can do that just at the airport, where are they going to do it at the mall? What are they going to do it at the bank? Where are they going to do it at the TD Center or something like this? And do we want this? And that's another question. Usually technology advances faster than we can regulate it. And ask, just because it can do something, do we want to do something? So I really don't know where all this is going to go. And I just think it could be amazing, or it could fall short, because sometimes we imbue technology with some things that it doesn't have. To have some massive AI presence would mean all the databases of the world are linked. And a lot of people say, no, this is my data.
The AI utopia.
I don't want to give you access to my data to do this. So
the siloed data.
And on one hand, wouldn't it be nice if maybe it would be nice, but maybe it'd be a nightmare in other circumstances. And again, a simple example is that somehow your doctor's records get linked. So now your insurance company knows the minute you get diagnosed with diabetes. And then, what does that mean here? What does that mean? Would the airline suddenly say, oh, I'm sorry, I can't book you a flight because you have diabetes and you might have an incident in midair, so I'm not going to rent you anymore? And you go, how do you know these things? So AI is a big black box. Promises some marvelous things, and I'm sure there will be marvelous things. But it may not be everything we think it is, and there may be downsides, and then we'll have to regulate it.
You mentioned something a few minutes back. You talked about communicating bad news and people getting the news. We're dealing with it every day. Like my top question, just as we came down the stairs, my sellers, they don't care. I show them the data. The data is clear. You're overpriced. Your price per square foot is too high. How do you get through to people like that? And again, they're pulling information. They're talking about Canadian National Association real estate and stuff. They're pulling it all in. They are going on Perplexity and all these things, and they're finding it out. They're coming armed. But then, how do you kind of counter that? And do you see an issue with that down the road? But we need people to understand that if you want to sell, this data is, we're not making it up. You have a unique property, but there is the market. And
they always say a little bit of knowledge can be a dangerous thing. And so on one hand, I'm a big believer in lots of knowledge. The more knowledge, the better. The better educated the consumer, the better it is. Certainly in real estate, I want someone to buy a house, but I want them to buy without blinders on. I want them to understand the risks and the rewards. As you mentioned about the prices, I want them to understand those things. I think this goes back again to the idea of the fake news and what have you. I believe something is true when you tell me what I want to hear, and I believe something is false when you tell me. And it doesn't matter. I don't care what your sources are. I don't care what all of that says. Give me a source that says something good. That's the right source there. And I think from a business standpoint, every business has to make a decision about the consumers it tries to serve. And sometimes one of the hardest things for a business to do is to say, I can't serve you. I would like to serve you.
Brilliant.
But I can't serve you. Imagine I'll give you a different example so it's not so personal. Imagine I'm a hairstylist and somebody comes in and says, can you take my hair and turn it into this afro and doing this? And you go, I could try, but I know you're going to be disappointed with the results. So no, if that's what you want, no. Keep your money in your pocket. I'm not going to serve you. And that runs contrary to a lot of entrepreneurial mindsets. In other words, if you've got money, how do I get that money from you and put it into my pocket? But every time you run across dissatisfied customers, it is because somebody stretched to try to meet a need that they really couldn't fulfill, and then they left them wanting. And so I think this question, you give them the facts. If they don't like what they hear, you say, I can't give you any other facts. Maybe I'm not the right person for you.
Brilliant.
Maybe you got to find somebody else.
No, I love that.
Unfortunately, they will keep looking. And unfortunately, they may run across a shyster who takes their money and leaves them tremendously unsatisfied. And I see that, and I think to myself, before you blame the shyster, were you the fault? Or did you keep looking? We see this sometimes with doctors. People want to go to visit other doctors because, no, it can't be that I'm just getting a little older. I've got schistosomiasis. And so they keep trying to find another person to give them that diagnosis and maybe give them a pill or give them a treatment protocol. And no, that's not what's necessary, but they'll keep looking. And then when they finally get the wrong thing and it causes bad things to happen to them, again, they want to blame the system.
So you have to sift through that clientele. And I totally agree with you. So let's talk a little bit about supply, the supply side. Do you think we're in a housing crisis? Do you think that the answer is prefabbed homes? Do you think it's, you're smirking at that?
Well, we've heard about prefabricated homes for 50 years. And they have a place. And they have a place. There's at least one or two in Hamilton where somebody's constructed a home using shipping containers and put them together somehow or other and then insulated them, and they are distinctive homes. Shall we call them distinctive homes?
Yes.
Not my idea of living. Do we have a housing crisis? I would say we had a housing crisis, given the policy of the federal government around trying to grow our population. I'm not blaming Mr. Trudeau. Canada does not, we Canadians are not producing enough children to sustain our population. A country like Canada needs to have on average 2.1 children per household to keep your population level. Mm-hmm. Instead, we still are having something like 1.3 children per household. What does that mean? It means over time, population will shrink. And at the same time, we've got an aging population. Mm-hmm. We now have more than 8 million people over the age of 65 in a country of 40 million. So who is going to be working to provide the benefits that those people are expecting to have? So rather than have a crisis of your population shrinking, is there a way to modestly grow your population? And the answer is yes. It's called immigration. It's not refugees, it's immigration. Immigration, these are talented people who come to the country with skills and money and ready to go. I believe Mr. Trudeau and his government, between allowing students into the country and allowing immigrants to work in the country, we probably were bringing in too many people. Okay. And we couldn't house them all. So if there's a housing shortage, what happens? It's going to drive the prices up. Mm-hmm. So we saw that over the last 4 or 5 years. Mr. Carney has come along and it's almost like hitting a brick wall. He just stopped everything. And so last year, Canada added, I can't remember the numbers I'm sitting here, but it was something like 100,000 people. Mm-hmm. But we'd been adding nearly 1 million people. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So at 100,000, that's an absorbable amount of immigration that can be absorbed into the current housing stock. Remember, houses are always being freed up. I hate to say it to you like this, but being freed up, people die, and houses come back onto the market. Mm-hmm. So there's always churn, there's always turnover. But we were having more people enter than we were having houses being freed up. For a while, provincial and federal government said, well, we can fix this. We'll just build more. Mm-hmm. And we'll really get the incentives out there and we'll build more. And the housing industry responded by attempting to build more, but they couldn't keep up with it either. Mm-hmm. I think we have calmed down a little bit now on all this. We're not letting as many people in. I think that's a more absorbable amount of people. The housing industry still going fairly strong in building. Still trying to figure out the right mix of stock to build. If you were to talk to my students at the university, their intention is to graduate and get to Toronto. They don't want to stay in Hamilton. Mm. And therefore, they also have it in their mind that they'll get a box of air, a condo, and that'll be fine, and they'll do that. Because when you're 20, you don't really imagine what 30 is like, or 35 is like. And suddenly one day you might have children, you might have other things, and then a piece of property and grass. But I think we're in a better space now. Home building organizations. Yes.
They're crying and
they're crying.
They are crying. Construction in Ontario.
I don't know if I've ever known a time when home building organizations don't cry about something. There's not enough land. We don't. That green belt. We got to dismantle the green belt to get more land. Sprawl is not necessarily the world's worst thing. Other nice people say go up, not out. Other people say let's go out more. It's easier, cheap. So, are they happy? I don't think there's anything that'll ever make them happy.
Well, they're down.
And nothing personal. But real estate agents are also not known as being happy people.
Never.
The world is never as perfect as they would like
Rates
it to be.
Rates are too high. Consumer confidence is low.
Something's wrong. It's not,
I say there's always a boogie person.
There's always a boogie person out there somewhere. But on balance, I think we're in a better spot going forward. And then the question comes, again, assuming that Mr. Trudeau was right that we need to have a few more people enter the country to keep the population. Well, when do we turn the tap back on, and how forceful do we turn the tap back on? So if we think today, okay, we've almost shut it down to nothing. It's not nothing, but we really cranked it back. It'll probably go up, but at what point and at how fast? And that we'll have to watch as Mr. Carney moves into his more senior years as a prime minister. But it is inevitable, I think, that we'll turn the tap back on. Because again, we're just not having children.
Yeah, well, and there's even the real estate industry. You talk about construction. They're talking about maybe let's bring back foreign buyers again. Lift that ban. Those guys are screaming. Like they had less. They're probably 85% of. They're 15% of what their 10-year average, or 85% down over the last 3 years, right?
Can I say about the foreign buyer thing that to me is a bit of a red herring, because what foreign buyers. When you're a wealthy individual with the kind of money that you can speculate in real estate, we're talking people who have millions.
Yeah.
Not somebody who's got a spare $10,000.
Yes. Yeah.
At that level, you also employ some very talented advisors. So one of the great things that they started figuring out was we would know if you're a foreign buyer because your home address is in Tokyo or your home address is in Beijing. So what you and your advisors would do would create a Canadian company. Canadian company 906-5413, and it was doing the buying.
Yes.
So see, it's Canadian. It's Canadian doing the buying. We're not offshore, we're Canadian. And that got around some of these restrictions. And so no matter how clever the government thinks, other nice people spend their lives figuring ways to work around all of this. So there's still foreign ownership of land out there. It didn't go away, but it changed how it was being done. And but the biggest thing, and you said it earlier in our conversation, was those rich people who were going to speculate in real estate did it because back in 2021, the market wasn't doing that well. Well, the market's done pretty well this year. So, okay, let's take my money and put it back over there. And that's what rich people do. They wander back and forth between different kinds of things that they can invest in a way that the average person cannot.
Great segue, because the K-curve, right? The K-curve. It's alive and well in the U.S. People feel that consumer sentiment and consumer buying was done because of higher end purchases. The wealthy are growing higher, and then the marginal are kind of not spending as much. So does that scare you at all? And then this whole discussion about the missing middle, do you feel we have to put some more attention to that missing middle because they're driving this whole thing, or do we let the market dictate it and allow this?
Well, I don't think the middle is missing.
Okay, good.
I don't think the middle is missing.
Okay.
Every politician in Canada keeps talking about the middle class, the middle class, middle class. Of course, we don't have a class. We have fairly much a classless society. So when we say middle class, we immediately mean the middle income. And how do you define middle income? Take Hamilton. The average household income in Hamilton is something like $80,000, $75,000, $80,000. And what? Oh, no, it can't be. Those are wealthy. No, that's the middle. That's the mean. That's the median. I don't think it's missing. I don't think it's missing. There is no doubt that under Mr. Trump's leadership, he himself is a wealthy person, and he wants to help other wealthy people. So many of the things he's done over the last year have allowed the rich to grow richer. And that would also be true to some extent in Canada. But the middle is still there. We haven't actually let the poor get poorer, but we were not as focused on the bottom third of incomes as maybe Mr. Biden was during his time as president, or as Mr. Obama was during his time as president. And these things, again, tend to swing like a pendulum. Different philosophies get in, and then we try to do different things as it goes. So I'm not really worried about the missing middle class, or middle income people. They're still there.
Good.
And they're still spending. Probably people are looking for a bit more value today. I'm guessing that you didn't run out last year and buy a La Boo.
You got that right.
And most middle-income people said, yeah, I don't think I need one of those.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do some value.
Yeah.
Christmas time, I see people having sumptuous meals. They still have turkey, but they've added salmon, they've done things. And yes, it cost a little more than average, but we deserve it. We need a little treat going forward, and so we still do that. Starbucks is still selling $7 coffees.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah.
McDonald's came out this week and said they're going to freeze the price of a small coffee at $1 for the year, for the entire year of 2026. Obviously appealing not to the middle income people, but to the lower income people. They've also dropped their value meal from $6 to $5.
Burger King followed suit as well. Yeah. Yeah.
But what does that mean? 6 to 5. Well, okay, that saves you $1, but how many of them are you having? Most of us don't go to McDonald's day in and day out for a value meal. So we appreciate it, but we're looking for value. We're spending money in a value way. And I think that's not a bad thing. I wish more consumers would do that and never fall in love with a good time whenever that comes along and then blow money. You should always spend for value. So if you're taking a trip, look for value. It doesn't mean you can't travel, but do you have to stay at the Ritz-Carlton? Maybe a nice Marriott would work just as well for you, and that puts a few more bucks back in your pocket.
Marvin, I've enjoyed this conversation. I'm going to end with one quick question. Because I use the keg, the keg, right? The keg. So my barometer of the Canadian economy, and maybe particularly Ontario, but if I can walk in on a Friday night to the keg, okay, and if I can walk in and they say, we have a table for you in 10 minutes, okay, or if they say, here's a little buzzer, we'll get you a table in about 2 hours. You want to wait or an hour and a half? When I can walk in and get a table, I'm fucking worried about the Canadian economy.
Sure.
But when they tell me it's an hour and a half to 2 hours, I'm super happy because people are out there and they're confident. What's your barometer that you go out and you see and you say, oh my God, we're in trouble? Or like we're still tickety-boo. You mentioned people's Christmases and things. Yeah, but
it's interesting that you think of it that way. I guess I don't quite define it the way you do because I'm not quite sure where the keg stands in people's minds today. So, is it Boston Pizza? Is it the keg? Yeah. Is it Moxie's? Some of those sorts of things. And you still see people eating in those places. I don't know if I have a barometer. I guess I very much live with the way the world is, the way the world is. I have to deal with the way the world is today, and probably because I'm not selling a product quite the same way you are, I don't have that same barometer. My feeling is that, and maybe this is based on the neighborhood where I live in Dundas, everyone seems to be doing just fine, thank you. Yesterday, we had a freakish snowstorm. We got 25 centimeters of snow. Middle of the day, the sound I heard everywhere, snowplows. People with a little person, not shared. Hey, Bob, can I borrow yours? Everybody has their own. And you think, well, geez, they're not a inexpensive instrument, and we only are going to use them 3 or 4 times during the season, but everyone has gone out and got one. Yeah. Also, it would be a week ago, was the first day that our waste management system would agree to pick up Christmas trees. Now, if you came by my house, there is no Christmas tree because I have a, what do they call it, a forever tree.
Yes.
I used to call it an artificial tree, which I put up and take down and reuse. But the number of homes that had a real Christmas tree out for disposal, I was quite surprised at.
Interesting.
How many of them had spent the money? And I don't even know what a Christmas tree costs. Yeah. But I'm assuming it's the better part of $50, maybe even getting close to $100 to buy a tree. Yeah. And how many of them there were out there? The RBG has a program that if you bring your tree to them, they'll use it to help, build embankments and keep carp out of this, and they make use of, and they get so many trees donated. So somehow we're still doing okay. I just think people don't like to say that. I think misery loves company.
Gotcha.
Success does not.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're right. I'm not. But I look at my students when they walk into class and they brought the Starbucks cup of coffee, and I say, how often do you do that? Oh, just about every day. And every day, you're supposed to be starving. You're supposed to be a starving student, and you're spending $7 on a cup of coffee. Well, it's a little affordable luxury. I feel I deserve a little treat. But every day you deserve a little treat.
Or sometimes they'll Uber eat it.
Oh, well.
Even better. That on demand.
If you think I'm a thought leader, I'm going to prove to you that I'm not, because I have never ordered food from Skip the Dishes or DoorDash or Uber Eats.
You and me both.
I will pick it up. I will order some food and go and pick it up. but I don't use these services. For my students, it's second nature.
I know.
It's not Uber necessarily to drive me somewhere, but Uber as a delivery system, it's amazing. So each generation has what I'll call their baseline of living. Mm-hmm. This is basic living. Because I'm old, I have an old baseline. Mm. I was raised by parents. My father worked. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. My father was a shift worker. We never had a lot of money, but we never thought of ourselves as poor because my mother supplemented things by canning fruits and vegetables or freezing things. When they bought meat, they'd buy it by a quarter of a cow, and we'd have. So we ate very, very well. We never thought of ourselves as poor. Mm-hmm. But nobody does those things anymore.
No.
Nobody makes cookies. Nobody makes muffins. My mother Saturday morning used to make bread and pies, and that was for the week ahead. Again, we weren't starving, but this was a choice we made.
Yes,
This was a choice we made. And most of us live a more, I'll use the word luxurious lifestyle as a baseline.
Yes, you're right,
As a baseline.
Yeah.
And I can't go anywhere without my massage every month. I gotta have a massage. Here's another bit of truth. I've never had a massage in my life. Never had one massage in my life. My parents never had massages.
Yeah.
Now, might there be a day when that might have been a good thing? Yes. We've all had a day where some heavy labor, some muscles that weren't used. But I guess I'm too cheap. I don't include that in my baseline of living. So that's, I think, another thing that happens from time to time is people need to reset that baseline and say, okay, what really is important? And it isn't that we're hard done by, but we allowed luxuries to creep in and then begin to think that that is average. And so I realize that doesn't answer your question, but I don't think the middle is missing.
Okay.
But what is the middle and how the middle wants to live does change.
Well,
and people have these expectations, and sometimes they have to be reset.
Well, I just want to say you are above average, my friend, and you have so much intellect, so much to share. I just wanted to say thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And we've got some great. You do 250, at least a couple hundred appearances like this, and this was amazing. I can't.
Well, I don't do many podcasts.
Okay, well, I appreciate you coming in.
But for instance, tomorrow morning I'm speaking to a television station in Vancouver.
Oh wow, excellent! So and you're so relied on, and you've got such a depth of knowledge. I can't thank you enough for sharing that with us today.
My pleasure.
And the what you are truly a thought leader in this community, this region, and across Canada. And I can't thank you enough for all you've done for all of us that absorb that information and that and your opinions. But your opinions are backed with fact, and that's what I love about you.
That's
and
very
I think
kind.
It's an amazing what you're doing. So kudos to you, and
Thank
you so much for doing this. And I know our audience will really appreciate a lot.
I'm
of
glad to be with you.
tone.
Happy to be here anytime.
Thank you again.